Welcome everybody. Today for lesson number 9, we are going to be completing these activities on our graph piece of paper. We're going to be using our pens and pencils, and we're going to be using tracing paper. I have parchment paper at home, so that's what I am using, but normally I use patty paper. It's a little bit easier to write on, but this will work for today. So first, for our warm-up, it says, describe a translation, rotation, or reflection that takes line L to L prime. So I can see that this line right here is L, and we want to move it so it is on top of L prime. So what do you guys think? Do you think a translation, a rotation, or a reflection will take this blue line onto this purple line? Good job. Actually, they all will. If I were to choose this, I would say translation. So what I would do, I would take my tracing paper, I would trace my line L, and I would translate it down. So I'd have to count the number of boxes that I need to go down. If I count 1, 2, 3, I need to go down 3 boxes. So I count 1 box, 2 box, 3 boxes. Now I translated line L to L prime. And if I wanted to label my new points, I would get A prime and B prime. If you guys want to see the other ones, I could also take line L and I could reflect it. So I would draw a line halfway between these two lines, and I would flip it. And once you flip it, you can see that the lines match up perfectly. And last but not least, I could put a point for my center of rotation. I can rotate it 180 degrees, and look, they match up perfectly. So I could have used either translation, rotation, or reflection. All right, number 2. Now it says make a translation, rotation, or reflection to get L to L prime. So for this one, we see L is the blue line, and we want to take it to this purple line, L prime. So I would take my paper, do the same thing. We have a line, put my dots A and B. And what do you think we should do? Okay, one possible option is to rotate. So I would put this as my center. I could rotate it until they line up. So if you chose rotation, very good. There's another option. You can reflect. This would be my line of reflection. I would flip it, and it would line up perfectly. Now, could I take this and translate it down to get to L prime? Yes or no? I could not. If I move it down, it's never going to cross. So translation is not an option. Now we're going to take a look at some parallel lines. So it says complete the following transformations on the graph below. So we have 3 things that we need to do. The first thing is to translate line A and B 3 units up and 2 units to the right. The second thing is rotate lines A and B counterclockwise 180 degrees using K as the center of rotation. And the last thing is to reflect lines A and B across line H. So first we are going to translate. Let's take our tracing paper, and we are going to trace line A and line B. Now it says I want to translate these 3 units up and 2 units to the right. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, and we need 2 units to the right. 1, 2. Now I can draw my new lines. So I see it is there, so it is there. Do you think the distance between my original A and B is the same as my new A prime and B prime? Yes, the distance is the same. Good job. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to rotate them counterclockwise 180 degrees. So I already have my 2 lines traced. Now I am going to put a plus sign here to help me measure 180 degrees. And we need to go counterclockwise. So if we remember, the clock counterclockwise is going to the left. So I'm going to put my pencil in the center. I'm going to rotate once. That is 90 degrees. Then I'm going to rotate twice. That is 180 degrees. So my new line, we can go all the way down. And if you guys notice, again, the distances are the same for each one because they are parallel. Okay, so now the last one. Reflect lines A and B across line H. Okay. So lines A and B, we need to reflect across H. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my line of reflection so I can flip my paper. So once it's drawn, flip it, line it up, and now you have your new lines. If you notice, my parallel lines are still an equal distance apart. That never changed. But now I have my translation, my rotation, and my reflection. Now let's take a look at some more 180 degree rotations. So this one says the diagram shows a line with points A, C, D, and B. So we have the line down here, A, C, D, and B. On the diagram, draw an image of the line and points A, C, and B after the line has been rotated 180 degrees around the point. Those new points we will label as A prime, B prime, and C prime, and then we're going to guess what order all of the 7 points are going to be. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to take my tracing paper and I am going to copy my line. So we're going to trace it. Let's put my point A, my point C, my point D, and my point B. And we want to now, we're going to be creating our new A prime and C prime and B prime. And we want to rotate around the point D. So I'm going to put a plus sign here. When I turn my paper 1 plus sign, that's 90 degrees. When I turn it 2 plus signs, that is 180 degrees. So I want you guys to guess what order do you think the points are going to be in. So we have A, C, D, and B. What order do you think it's going to be in? We're now going to have A prime, C prime, and B prime. Let's take a look. So I'm going to put my pencil on D and I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees. So if I rotate it once, that's 90 degrees. If I rotate it one more time, that is 180 degrees. So now we can see what our order is. If you look, you can see between this, we got A first, and then we got C, and then we got B prime, and then we got D, and then we got B, and then we got C prime, and then we got A prime. So this is our new order. If I put them over each other, you can see them. This one kind of falls off the edge. But we got A, C, B prime, D, B, C prime, and A after a rotation of 180 degrees. Let's rotate 180 degrees one more time. So this one says, this diagram shows a line with points A and C on a line. Okay, so we have A and C on a line. And line segment AD, where D is not on this line. We are going to rotate this figure 180 degrees around point C. We will label our new image as A prime and D prime, and then we're going to see what that looks like. Okay. Okay, so let's draw our line. Include our points. Put our plus sign here so we know how to do our 180 degrees. And we're going to need new points of A prime and D prime. Okay, let's rotate it. So one plus sign is 90 degrees. Two plus signs are 180 degrees. So look, it makes like this backward Z. Okay, so let's put our new points. So we got A prime, A prime, and D prime. So now my question for you guys is, what do you know about the relationship between the angle CAD, so CAD, what do you know about this angle and angle CA prime D prime, so CA prime D prime? What do you know about those two angles? Well, since we rotated it, and we know when we do a rotation, which is a rigid transformation, the angles stay the same. So whatever angle was up here, when we rotated it, it's the same angle down here, so we can say the angles are congruent, or the angles are the same. Now this one is really cool. So it says, take the diagram that shows these two lines, line L and M, so this is line L, and this is line M. They intersect at point O with A on line L and D on line M. We're going to rotate this figure 180 degrees around O, and we're going to label our new A as A prime and the image of D as D prime. Okay, so this one, really cool. So what we're going to do, we're going to label our points, we're going to trace them, okay, now we're going to rotate it 180 degrees, so we're going to put a plus sign in the center, your center of rotation, and again, to rotate 180 degrees, that is 90 plus 90, so we're going to turn it once, 90 degrees. We're going to turn it twice, 180 degrees. So we'll put our new points. This is A prime and D prime. So if you take a look, what do you guys notice about angle AOD and angle A prime OD prime? What do you guys notice about those? They are vertical angles. So you guys learned last year that if the angles are opposite, they are vertical angles. Now you know that they're congruent because we did rotation. So by doing a rotation, the angles stay the same, and that means they're congruent. I think that's really cool. All right, thank you guys. Have a great day.